tonight working on the Riley. Actually, I haven't really done anything on the Riley. I'm just letting the stain fully dry. I'll give it a couple of days, I think, but it's come out really well. It did occur to me that when I make the body, because I'm making it from steel, I will have to paint the inside of it as well, otherwise it'll rust. So I may paint that a lighter colour than the outside, so it'll make the inside not so dark. So maybe I'll paint that white or a light grey, something like that. I'm going to have to make the body, make all the panels fit, but before I do the final fitting of the panels and hammering around the edges, I'll have to paint it, because once it's on the car, it's going to be hard to get to it to paint. So I'll have to figure that out when the time comes. So once that dries, I'm going to put it back on the chassis and remount the doors, because I need to start looking at the door locks and how they're going to work, because I will have to cut the backs of the doors and I'll have to figure out where the catches and things go. But because I'm kind of waiting for that, I've been cleaning up this little bead roller, cleaning up all the pieces, cleaning up the body. I did find a number on it, 541, and I'm pretty sure this is actually a pre-war one. One of the reasons for that is post-war they seem to change the handle style to a straight handle, and they had a different style adjuster. This has obviously been welded in the past. It was pretty bent, so I've just straightened it out, but I'm going to leave it pretty much how it is. The rest of it's cleaned up pretty well. I actually put the shaft on the lathe and just ran a single point cutting tool over the thread. So this is 18 TPI thread, Whitworth thread, just to clean up the threads on the end there where they were damaged. Not sure we can really see it. So there's still damage there, but the threads work. So this threaded on okay. Cleaned up the rest of it. Cleaned up the body. This red paint seems to be the original paint, so maybe I'll repaint it that red colour. It's either that or it's kind of an iron oxide colour. I'm not quite sure. But it should hopefully all go back together okay, and then all I have to do is actually figure out some wheels to go on it. But I think it'll be a nice little unit. I have a little bit of a sinus infection or something, so I'm not feeling very motivated right at the moment. And yesterday I spent time working on the bike, on the body of that. But I have done a little bit on the Riley. I always try to do a little bit. I have put the front half of the frame back in place, and I've actually screwed the metal brackets in place along the bottoms there, because now I'm sure that all lines up and everything's all nicely stained. The doors are bolted back on. The fit's still good. So the next thing will be figuring out the door locks at the back of the door. So these will need to go into the back of the door. I need to figure out exactly the spacing, and I'll have to figure out how much of a shim I need in the front of the door to move, to get that gap correct at the front. So that's going to be a bit more playing around, but the frame looks good, all stained black like that. It's come out really well. It took about 3 or 4 coats. So it took over a week to do that, because you have to do a coat and then let it dry and then do another coat. So still obviously need to do all the back half once I figure out the doors. I'm not sure I'm going to do much more today, but the other thing I want to do is, it may be possible for me to do this lower half of the firewall in one piece. I'm going to try it with bits of cardboard glued together when I actually end up making the little vertical piece here. I think it may be possible. I'm not sure you'd actually be able to get it into position though, but to have a piece that comes up to about here, that's one piece that goes all the way across. You could definitely make a piece that'll fit there. Whether you can get it in place or not is the problem. I don't think you'd be able to get it around the steering column and the pedals, so it may have to be multiple pieces that are sort of screwed together. But yeah, it doesn't look too bad. I think I'd already mentioned I have also made that step in the firewall. That'll be the correct gap for when this is wrapped in aluminium, when this is wrapped in steel, and you've got the bonnet sitting on top of there with the bonnet tape. So hopefully I've got that measurement correct. I forgot I have done something else. I cleaned up and primed and painted the little bead roller. So this paint is meant to be Indian red, but it's just brown, really. I think originally it would have been a bit more red coloured, but it doesn't really matter. This is good enamel paint. Should be nice tough stuff. I'll probably leave it a week to really cure, and then I am just about to clean up in here because it's become a mess again. I tidied up all the pieces and I gun blued to chemically blacken all the nuts and bolts and bits and pieces. I did clean these up on the lathe just a little bit where it was kind of all bashed over. They've been blued and then covered in oil. I've been using linseed oil on the handle. The handle was split, but I've glued that back together. I'm going to leave this original repair on there. The only other thing I have to do is find suitable roll pins to go through here. I did measure the imperial size and I've forgotten what it is. It's about 5.5 millimeters. So I might have to see if I can get some. I've got a box of roll pins, but none of them fit. So if I really have to, I can remake the pin. One of them was missing, but this is one of the original pins that was in there. I don't know if it is original, but I figure I could replace those with a modern roll pin. I think would work better. So that should be quite fun to reinstall. I will have to make up the wheels and cut the threads on them, and the top one's actually a reverse thread. So can you actually see? So this one's a normal thread. As you can see, it goes that way as you go down, but the top one goes the opposite way because of course it's rotating the opposite direction. The two shafts go different directions. Since I wasn't feeling too motivated on the car, I decided to pull apart my little garage radio. It was the one I actually got from the tip shop for $5, but it worked fine. When we had the power failure the other day, it stopped working fine, and the reason is simple enough, but this is something I've noticed with modern appliances and things. Back in the old days, you used to have a physical fuse, you know, a mechanical fuse you could easily change. When's the last time you've seen an appliance that actually has an unscrewable fuse holder on it? So these days what they do is they integrate it into the circuit. So this is actually the fuse there, that little brown thing. Let's see. I don't think it'll focus. Oh yeah, there we go. And that's what's blown. As far as I can tell, everything else is okay. The fuse did its job. It's there to protect the circuit, which it did. But this thing now, even when it was new, probably, it would have been a cheap stereo. It wouldn't have been worth fixing. So you would have had to have found someone who you could take it to, who would open it up, figure out what was wrong, which took all of about 2 seconds. but then has the component there ready to replace. And I don't think there are places like that around anymore. So they would you just throw the thing out and have to buy another one. So I need to get, I've just lost that little glass fuse, which is actually the fuse for the alarm in Big Shed. I do have a temporary fuse in there, but it's far too high a value. And it's actually quite hard to buy those little glass fuses now. Again, no sort of hardware shops or electrical shops or even automotive places have those style of fuses easily. So I need to get them from one of the specialist electronic suppliers, RS or Element 14 or someone like that. And the reason I'm taking this apart is because I don't want to do an order just for a couple of 250 milliamp 20 mil long fuses. So I thought, well, if I'm going to have to make an order from them for the fuses, I might as well see what had blown in this and see if I can get the parts to repair it. My other little stereo, I've had this one for years. This is also blown, and I suspect it'll be a very similar problem. So I may also open this one up and see if there's an onboard fuse that's blown. Yeah, it's just annoying that they just make everything to be disposable effectively. So this is what's actually inside the little component. You can just pull it apart, and there was, it's a bit hard to focus, between those two prongs is where the little piece of fuse wire would have been, and it looks like it is wrapped in some sort of insulator, but I did check, that is definitely blown. I could probably fix this if I have a suitable glass fuse. It might be possible to actually just replace the fuse wire, solder the ends on. It's only like a 2 amp fuse, so I may be able to do that. That might be an easy way to actually get this working again. So RS do have the part. They're 63 cents each. You have to buy a pack of 10. So I may end up ordering some of those. I'm going to open up the other stereo and see what's blown in that one. Now this stereo is a lot more old school. I think it was from around 98, 2000, sometime like that. I've had it a long time. But this, as well as being much more substantial and having a real transformer in it, actually has proper replaceable fuses. So with a bit of luck, that's all that popped in this one. 630 milliamp fuse by the looks of it, which is a bit of a strange value. So I'll see what I can get. This might be a bit tricky with one hand, but so that one's okay. Yep, and that one's blown. So it looks like all I need to do to fix this one is get a suitable 20mm fuse. Tonight I'm back out on the Riley again. Kind of been pondering these door hinges, door latches rather. These are sort of the right ones, but I'm a little bit worried that the springs on these are very strong and you won't be able to close the door just by slamming it effectively. I don't think that will easily make it past the spring on that latch. That's actually razor sharp on the edge there as well. So the problem there being people will just slam the doors, and I think all that's going to happen is it'll end up smashing the edge of the door like that. So you have to actually operate the lock effectively, or operate the latch by pushing the handle down to get it to close, whereas ideally you want to be able to push the door closed. You might notice there's no door handles, so I'm not sure these are going to be the right sort of thing to use. So I'm still sort of pondering that a little bit. I did adjust the shape of the bottom rail here. You can see it's come in a bit. When that's bolted down, that'll come out a little bit further. So there's a little bit of mismatch there. I can always bring the door in a little bit, and I think I need to take this down a little bit, which is probably a good thing, because if you look down here, the clearance between the spring shackle and the body is almost non-existent. So this will, when it's bolted in place, will sit out there. The door will sit just a little flush, which means I've got about 1/8 of an inch. I guess I can take off this. This is all solid wood, so there's no problem removing that. So I might have a look at what other sort of latches are around. It's a bit hard to know what they were originally. They seem to vary on the cars that are still around now. I don't know if that's because they varied from the factory or they've just been repaired and replaced over the years. So I'm still pondering that. I'm still making the piece of metal that goes across there. I started sort of templating something up using my contour gauge and just roughing out little bits of cardboard to sort of see, how that piece will go. Something in like that, and then the firewall here will come down and join it. I have ordered some aluminium angle that I'll use to sort of attach everything together, but I got distracted rebuilding my little what do they call it here? It's got a very strange name, a Colombian turning machine. Or swaging machine, Jenny, I guess you would call it. So I did find the model number on there. I think I mentioned that. Little focus on it, 541, and that matches this one, 541, small turning machine with stand. So I guess it originally came with a stand, and there's a picture of it there. This manual, so this is the name of the company, Peck, Stowe and Wilcox, and you often see that abbreviated as Peck Stowe, I think it was. This is where I found the manual, vintagemachinery.org, Tinsmith's Tools and Machines Catalogue, 2nd edition, 1912. So this is pretty much exactly that. This has been repaired in the past, or made longer, I'm not sure. You can see where it's been welded. Obviously I'm missing the wheels that go on here, but that's pretty much it. I had a look in the later catalogues. The next catalogue was 1937, and the style of it changed. They went to sort of straight handles and a straight handle here. I don't know why all of this vintage stuff has these sort of curved handles. It always makes me think of Victorian machinery. Is there a reason for that, or is it purely aesthetic? Because as far as I can see, unless I'm missing something really obvious, it doesn't matter what the shape is between these 2 points. It's just as if you've got a straight line between them, or effectively the center of a circle and the outside point of a circle. So did they do this for any reason, or is it just purely for looks? So I've reassembled it. It isn't 100% finished because I don't have the pins that go through to lock these gears to the shafts. I was hoping to be able to use a modern spring sort of roll pin, but all I've got are metric ones, and all I've found so far are metric ones. This is the pin that was in there, which could almost be tapered if that's the original pin. And this and the hole measures 7/32 off an inch. So maybe I can get a modern pin that'll fit that. If not, I might machine something up. Maybe just from brass. Because you're not going to have huge amounts of force on this. But this seems to be a small, I think it's a stop basically. So this is the lock jam nut, and then it's got this clever thing where this is tapered, this is tapped rather. This is tapped into here, and this has got a reverse thread on it. So when you turn this in, this goes out. Just got it sort of stuck. Can't do it with one hand. There we go. So I believe that's what that's for. I think I need to adjust it. I don't think it's in quite the right place. I think this needs to go further back to get the full adjustment on here. But to do that, I need to remove these again, because you need to be able to rotate this, otherwise it bottoms out and it can't come off. So you need to be able to rotate this whole end thing. The other things that are interesting here is there's a spring underneath there, inside there, which is what controls the tension on this block. This block isn't held. There's nothing holding it side by side. It's just kind of the tension on it, I guess. It can slide. So that puts the tension on it. There is this sort of cup, and it's got two holes drilled in the sides, and that's what allows the shaft to pivot. These are just little screwed in pins that go in either side, and that's what lets that angle change. And I guess the angle change is so small it doesn't matter that the gears aren't meshing perfectly. What else is interesting? This is adjustable, so that's why it's got this sort of collar here that you can adjust and screw in and out, and that's to adjust the position of this, which is the other reason this block is free to move, I believe, so that you can change the position of this top wheel in and out. So that's what that's for, and that's why there's such a long thread on there. There's a spring that goes, it's sort of captive inside this little collar and against the back of the gear. You can see where it's been rubbing. So that's what keeps the tension on it, even though it's adjustable. And the only other thing that's of note on it is I believe it's just designed to be oiled, because there are little oil holes everywhere. So this one goes down onto that shaft. There's one here for this end, another one here, and one in this top collar. So it's been designed for an oil can rather than grease. So that's what I've used on it. I've just used oil. So yeah, quite a neat little machine. When I make up these little wheels, there's sort of pictures there. It's just like little bead roller wheels basically. They just sort of screw on there. That should work reasonably well. I believe what this was actually used for was doing tin work. So rolling edges on the tops of cans and things like that. So this is obviously a modern one, but doing these kind of rolls, I think. So making tin cans or containers or ducting, anything like that. I think that's what this was mainly used for. But it's kind of cool, and it is a period piece. It is pre-war. I've just fitted the little pin temporarily. It's just finger tight in there, but it's enough to stop the gear slipping on the shaft. This one's actually reasonably tight on the shaft, so it's holding by itself. Well, that works pretty well. And you can see when it's turning why those threads are reversed. That's so that the little wheels will self-tighten. The other cool thing about this catalogue is it actually tells you the diameter of the wheels. So the small turning machine, which is what this is, 2 1/16. And this is one of the dies that came with my other bead roller. And funnily enough, and I don't know if this is a coincidence or not, that is exactly 2 1/16 inches wide. So that kind of gives you an idea of the diameter of them. So there'll be one there and one there, which kind of makes sense. It's in the range of adjustment of this thing. So the interesting thing is this a standard size? And has it been a standard size for over 100 years? Because these are all the same sort of diameter. This is obviously my other machine. These are really common, cheap Chinese type machines now. I think in America it's Eastwood who makes them. So yeah, that's interesting, but it's come out quite well. Neat little project.